Hey guys, Yuvraj here from Brainstorm Force once again, and in today's exciting video, we're going to talk about the how-to schema and also how to add the how-to schema to our pages and posts on our website. So let's get started. We're inside the magical world of WordPress, and if you watched any of my previous videos about Schema and Schema Pro, then you probably know the format that I usually use to take these videos forward. First, I show you the results of the schema or the benefits of having a particular type of schema in the SERPs. Then we go to the Google Rich Snippet guidelines, and then I start with how to add the type of schema that we're talking about inside WordPress. But I'm going to switch the script here. Today, I'm going to start with the Google's guidelines first for the how-to schema. And why I'm going to do that, it's a particular reason which you will understand in the video. So let's start with Google's guidelines. So these are Google's guidelines. Mark up your how-to pages with structured data. So how-to pages. Now, obviously, the how-to schema is to be used on pages and posts or content of your website, which can be divided into steps in how-to format. How to do X, Y, Z, how to build something, how to do something. But a very clear distinction that Google makes on even the first line of the guidelines is do not use the how-to schema for foods or drinks. That means do not use when you're talking about how to make a specific kind of foods or drinks. Use the recipe schema for that. And if you're watching our channel, we probably already have done a schema video on the recipe schema and how to implement it. So subscribe so you'll get notifications about new videos that we create. The recipe schema video is probably already uploaded on the channel, and if it's not, it's going to be coming soon because we are doing a lot of schema videos right now. So let's now read the little bit about the guidelines themselves and look at the benefits of having the how-to schema, and you'll also understand why I started with this instead of the SERPs. So let me read what Google has to say. Use how-to structured data to explicitly tell Google that your content is a how-to. Obvious. A how-to walks users through a set of steps to successfully complete a task and can feature video, images, and text. Important information. It can feature video, images, and text. For example, how to tie a tie or how to tile a kitchen backsplash. If each step in your how-to must be read in sequence, it's a good sign that how-to structure data could benefit your content. So nothing interesting or exciting till how Google is describing what kind of content qualifies for the how-to schema. And if you're watching this video, you probably already knew that. But now this is where it gets interesting. How to structure data is appropriate when the how-to is main focus of the page. Not important right now. Properly marked up how-to pages may be eligible to have a rich results on search, which we already know, which is why this video is being made, and an action on the Google Assistant. This is what I'm talking about. This is one of the advantages that most other schemas do not have. Now, what is an action on the Google Assistant? I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but the idea is that you have Google Assistants and a lot of other smart speakers inside your house. So this specifically is for the Google Assistant or the Google speakers that you get in your houses. So if you have a properly marked up data or a page or content with the how-to schema, it can become an action on the Google Assistant. So if somebody asks, okay, G, how do I do this? Then Google can read the specific steps through the markup and then step by step instruct the user what they are trying to do. So this is one of the benefits of having the how-to schema, and it leads to more content distribution if you're into that kind of thing, if you want to understand. So Google can distribute your content on smart speakers and devices where only text-based content would not have reached. So you get more distribution and more users can visit or get to know about your website through action on the Google Assistant. Now, another advantage of having the how-to schema is this. Adding how-to structured data to your page can automatically generate a how-to action for smart displays. What is a smart display? We'll talk about in a second. If you'd like to provide your users with the best visual experience on these devices, including the images specified in the markup, fill out the interest form. So this is not something that will happen by default. It can happen, but you have to show interest as a publisher. So I'll leave a link down in the description for this entire page. So if you are one of those publishers who wants to take advantage of smart displays, you will have access to this link as well. So talking about smart displays, what are smart displays? Let me show you. So these are smart displays. They're a Google product, but I think other companies also produce the hardware, and Google produces or creates the software that runs on it. So these are essentially smart speakers, but with displays built in. So as you can see, a JBL speaker was right here. So Google makes the software, but other companies can make the hardware. I'll show that to you. Okay, JBL, and I believe some other manufacturers also make some products. that have smart displays. So the idea is when you have the how-to schema and a smart display is being used, Google can also give visual information to the user. For example, how to tie a tie. It's not very helpful if it's just steps only spoken through a speaker. The user has to see it to understand the steps better. Otherwise, it can become confusing. So this is one of the, I would say, rising categories in the smart devices space, where the visual element is as important as the spoken element. So this is where your content will be available or will be displayed if you have the proper how-to schema on your pages and posts. So this was about smart devices. Now let's go back to the guidelines, and I'll show you some of the results that you can expect in the SERPs. So we're back in the guidelines of the how-to schema, and let me show you some of the results that you can expect in the SERPs. I'll scroll down below, and one of the important information that I wanted to highlight was this: feature availability. That means Google is trying to tell you where this feature is available. So how-to rich results are currently available in all languages and countries where Google search is available. Now the important part comes in. The feature is only available The feature is only available on mobile devices, not desktop. So if I search for an important query in Google which qualifies for the how-to schema, then you might not see any of the rich results on a desktop. That is why I started with this. And what I did was I took this query that Google has an example, how to tile a kitchen backsplash, and I searched it on my mobile phone and I made a screen recording of it. So I'll overlay it right on this video so that you can see what you can expect in the rich results with the how-to schema. As this is just one of the types of rich results that you see, Google has a few different examples. So I'll overlay the video right now, and then we'll come back after you watch it. All right, so now that we've covered the advantages of the how-to schema, the benefits, and the future-proofing that the how-to schema provides in terms of distribution on smart devices, let's go back to our WordPress website, and I'll show you how to add the how-to schema on your pages and posts. All right, back in the magical world of WordPress, to start creating schemas with Schema Pro, I'll start by going into Settings, Schema Pro. So this is the first screen that you should see, which is the schema screen. This is where you'll see all the different kinds of schema that you've created for your website. Currently mine's empty. I have a bunch of them in the trash, but no live schemas right now. So I'll create a new schema by going to Add New. Now this is the schema selection screen where you pick the kind of schema that you're trying to create. So since we are creating a how-to schema, I'll go to the how-to and click the next button. Now these are the targeting options. Now these help you define on what pages and posts the schema that you just created or you started creating should go on. Now these are very important to understand, not just for the how-to schema, but for every kind of schema that you create. So the idea is that you have two types of rules. You have inclusion, which are enable on, and exclusion rules, which are exclude from. So what you do is you create some rules here, and whatever pages, posts, taxonomies, archive pages, custom posts qualify in this section all get the schema, and whatever pages, posts, archives, taxonomies, all kinds of pages, singulars, you qualify or that qualify inside the exclusion rules do not get the schema. So you have complete control over what pages and posts get the schema and what do not get the schema. Now for the how-to schema, the complexity of the rules is not something that you should be concerned with, because most of the time you'll be creating how-to schemas individually for single posts. So every schema or every page or post will have a different kind of schema. But these are very important to understand when you're doing something like the article type schema, where you want to have multiple pages with the same schema template that we are creating. So I'll show you the options inside the the enable in section, and both the settings actually have the same options, but the result is the same. So these are the options inside the enable on section. You have the option to target all singulars, that means singulars of custom post types, pages, and posts. The front page, all posts, all pages, and specific targeting. So specific targeting lets you target specific pages, posts, specific custom posts, and taxonomies, tags, archives, all that good stuff. Now, since we are doing the how-to schema, I want to add this kind of schema on a particular post only. So I'm going to select this option, which will open up a search box. And what I'm going to do is type in the name of the post that I want to add the how to schema on. So I'm going to type it in right now. Okay, so in just an instant, when I type the how to, because I remember only that part of the title, Schema Pro searched for the appropriate post, and only one post qualified because this is a test website, how to tile a kitchen backsplash. So what I did was I took the same example that we showed in the Google Rich Snippet guidelines, and also I showed you on my phone as a recording. So I chose the same example, and Schema Pro detected that only one post on your website has the words how to in it. If there was a category or other pages, then you would see them here. So I'm going to click on it and it adds it to the rules. So now any page title or this particular post will get the how to schema. So let's click the next button to move on to the next step. All right, the schema creation process is complete. Let's complete the setup and start configuring the schema in the next steps. So this is the schema configuration or editing screen, if you'd like to call it, or page if that works for you. So this is where we configure the schema. So what we've done right now till this point is we created a schema type or selected a schema type, and we configured what pages and posts will get that type of schema. Using the targeting options, we can target any number of pages on our website if you like. You can use hundreds of pages or even thousands of pages at a single time. That works perfectly. But we did not configure what the schema type or what information will go inside the schema on these pages and posts that we qualify with the targeting options. So that is what we usually configure in this screen, the edit schema screen. But the how to schema is a little bit different, as most of the things will not be the same for all different kinds of pages and posts. So the configuration process of these variables, which I was talking about, which will not do a lot here. What we'll do is go to the post itself and we'll configure the schema here. But it's important to understand the options here as well. So I'm going to show you what the options are. The first option is that you can change the name of the schema. So by default, the name of the schema that you create is how to, which is the name of the schema type or the type of schema that we created. But you have the option of typing a new name here. So what I recommend is that whenever you try creating a how to schema, that you name the schema appropriately. For example, we were choosing to create a schema for how to tile a kitchen backsplash. So technically I can write in how to kitchen backsplash, which will give me an idea about what kind of how to schema was this type when I created it. Because once you start creating a lot of schemas, it's easy to get confused or forgetful about the particular schema, why it was created in the first place. So the name option or changing the name will help you remember that easily. The second option are the targeting options. Once again, they're the same as I showed you earlier, and you have the option of changing and customizing them right now. So coming down to the schema fields, this is where the magic happens, as I'd like to call it, for most of the schema types where some sort of configuration is needed. But for the how to schema, as I mentioned, we'll configure most of the things on the post itself. But I'd like to highlight an important thing, which is this. So what we do is we always include a link to a helpful blog post on our website, which describes the particular type of schema that we are configuring. So if you click this link right here, it will open up a new tab and it will open up the specific blog post that talks about the how to schema. And usually it also covers the kind of variables that you have to map, because different kinds of schema can have different kind of variables that you need to configure. And this is the option that I was talking about. But the how to schema, I'll just show it to you. But if you need to come back and check this out, then this option will be available for you. And if you're not a Schema Pro user, you don't have access to Schema Pro, then I'll leave a link down in the description for this particular blog post as well. So you can check it out if you like. Let's go back to the website. Okay, so coming to the fields themselves, these are the fields that we're talking about, but we'll talk about them on the post itself. So right now what I'm going to do is just save the schema or update the schema in this case, and then we'll open up the post where we want to target or we want to add the schema type. So I'm going to click this. All right, so I saved the schema and I open up the particular post that I was talking about, how to tile a kitchen backsplash. It's a dummy post. There's no actual content on it. It's just a filler text. But this is how the post would look like when I'm using the Gutenberg editor, and the classical editor looks very similar. So all the options for the document are on the right side. And if you want to check the schema out where the schema is added, all you have to do is scroll down below to the bottom of the post. And this is where you'll find the schema usually. And you can add different kinds of schema. That means more than one kind of schema to a page or post. For example, this is technically an article as well. It's not just a how-to thing. So you can add the article schema as well. And if you have that, so you'll see tabs on the left corner right here. So let's talk about this schema now. What kind of fields we have access to, what do we need to do to configure it. So as you can see, it's not very complex to understand what the fields are. You have the name, which is mapped to the title of the post. That means you don't have to fill it in. Whatever is the title of the post, it will automatically come here, which makes sense and it saves you a bunch of time. The description is a field where you have to kind of describe what you're doing, not how you're doing it, but what you're doing it. So the content of the post, that means this text is becoming the description of the schema. Most of the time, it shouldn't be a problem, but if you are talking about a lot of different things in the post, then what you can do is copy the essence or essential part of the description of what you're trying to do, and then choose this option, which makes it an editable field, and just paste the data in here right here. I've showed that feature in a lot of different schema videos, so you can check it out. So let's get to the total time field. So how much time does it take to complete the process from start to finish? We have to enter or configure that here. So what I'm going to do, let's say you do something, or tiling a kitchen backsplash takes 2 days. So what I'm going to do is click this right here, and I have the option of choosing or configuring the time. So we have hours, minutes, and seconds. So I'm going to choose 48 hours, which is 2 days approximately. Done. And it's configured. Next option is materials and tools. Before getting to the next field, I'd like to talk about one important thing, that there are two types of fields when we're talking about schema in general, all types of schema. You have mandatory fields and you have recommended fields, or which are also, we like to call it, optional fields. So mandatory fields have this red asterisk in front of them. As you can see, as the steps and the name are mandatory fields. Rest are optional field or recommended fields. So the idea is that if you don't fill them in, then you will still qualify for rich results, but it is recommended, or we'd highly recommend you to fill in as much information as you can, because Google keeps testing out new formats of schema. And if you don't have the information, or if you don't fill out some of the information, then you might miss out on a new channel of distribution. So I recommend don't worry about the optional or the recommended field, just fill everything in. And Schema Pro makes it a lot easier, so you don't have to do a lot of the manual work. So let's talk about the materials. So you have materials. What kind of materials you would need? You have to enter them specifically. So when I click this plus icon, I get the option of adding a material type in. So technically, the materials is not a recommended field, but the name of the material is a recommended field, or I would say a mandatory field. So it's highly recommended, or I'd say it's mandatory. Just assume that it's mandatory to add the name of the material. So if you have more than one material that you need, just keep adding the fields, and it will keep adding more and more fields. And then what you can do is add the name of the materials that you like to use. So what I'm going to do is fill it with some filler content, because actually I don't know how to tile a kitchen backsplash. So I'm going to make assumptions here and add some dummy information in a second. All right, so I filled in some of the materials that I think are necessary for tiling a kitchen backsplash, but don't quote me on this. I might be completely wrong. So let's get to the next field, which is the tools option. So I'm going to click the plus icon again and click and add a tools option. Now, materials alone cannot help you in building something or doing something. You need some kind of tools. You might need hammers, you might need wrenches, or different kinds of tools. So this is where you'll type it in what kind of tools you need to get the job done. Similar to the materials field, you can add a few fields and add some of the tools that you're going to need. And it's recommended that you fill in all the information. So even if you have a tool that you use for a particular purpose, you should add it here. So I'm going to fill this information once again using my knowledge of kitchen backsplashing, which is honestly not much. All right, let's get to the next step, which is steps. So this is where we describe the steps that a user or reader needs to take to finish the job. And you have to describe it in not granular detail, but be as specific as possible so that you don't miss out on important details. So don't worry about having the steps too long, but don't include a lot of important information in a single step, as the reader might miss out. So what I'm going to do is create the steps right now. So I'm going to do this, and this is a single step. Single step has 4 different fields. You have a step name, description, step URL, step image. I'm going to explain what the options are, but it's important to understand that you need to have at least 2 steps to qualify for rich results if you're using the how-to schema. So I'm going to add one more step by default. Now, I don't know if the actual number of steps are or what the process is, but I just wanted to highlight that you need at least 2 steps to qualify for rich results. So the step name is that you can describe the step, what it is. For example, if you're getting wood ready, then you can say, hey, cut the wood. The step description is where you describe the step. So if you have a particular way you would like the wood to be cut, if you're using a hacksaw or some other machinery or equipment, you'll describe the process. The step URL is an optional field, but you can fill it in, and a lot of times you might not be able to fill it in. So the step URL, what you need to do is provide a different URL which describes the particular step in more detail. So let's say, for example, you are taking a wood cutting class and you say, hey, cut the wood block in a rectangle, and then you add it as a step right here. But you already have another article or another piece of content on your website which describes the process just for the wood cutting. So what you can do is add the URL of that post here in the URL field. Now that might always not be possible, I understand. So you can leave, this is the exception that I will say, that this is the field, recommended field that you can leave empty because it's not possible to create all kind of content. Regarding external URLs, I'm not really sure if that is the case that you can add, but I think you can add external URLs as well. But why would you want to do that if you are covering a specific topic? So make a judgment call if you think an external URL could benefit the user, and if it's a non-competing kind of URL, then you can add it. But if you don't have it, don't worry about it. The step image is where you have to add an image that describes the step or shows off what the step will look like after finishing that step. So what I'm going to do is fill in this information with some dummy steps based on my knowledge, and then we'll save the post from the update area right here. Then we'll go out and check the schema if Google is actually checking or fetching or parsing or qualifying the schema correctly on rich results inside Google's rich snippet testing tool. So I'll be back in a second. All right, so I've filled in the information that is necessary for these steps, and as you can see, I've filled in the step name. I've described the step, not in a lot of detail, but you should describe it in detail. I've added an image. I've skipped the step URL because I don't have a reference URL that I can place comfortably or that I know is actually relevant, but you can add a URL there. So I've done that for both the steps. And I've also added the image, and a pro tip about the images that you should try to use the images with a 1:1 or a square aspect ratio, because on mobile phones, that is the most popular aspect ratio that you'd see in the how-to schema. So that's a pro tip right there. So what I've done is actually resize the images to a square aspect ratio, and you should do that as well. And what you can do is reuse the images on your post itself. If you have the option to do so, just download them, or if you have them saved somewhere, just resize them to a square aspect ratio, and that'll look much better in the how-to schema rich results. So let's update the post, and we'll open up the post on the front end of the website and test the schema out. All right, this is the post, and this is how it will look like to an end user who's visiting your website. And the schema is not showing up on the screen, obviously, but the content is the same. So let's test the schema out by using Schema Pro's native feature, the test schema button. So when I click this button, you'll see what happens. So when I clicked the button, Schema Pro opened up the Google Rich Snippet testing tool and added the URL directly, and the testing also began. So let's stay patient while the testing is complete. All right, the testing is now complete, and as you can see, page is eligible for rich results, including the breadcrumbs, which we did not cover in this video. It's done in another video you can check out on our channel. The how-to schema is also qualified for rich results. Two warnings I'm going to talk about. It's the URLs that we skipped, so nothing to worry about, and page is still eligible for rich results. So let's open up the details and see how the schema was added. So as you can see, the type, how to, name, description, everything has been added correctly, including the steps. And that's perfect. The only warnings are about the missing field URLs, and they are optional fields. And now, as I mentioned, the recommended fields should be filled in, but you don't want to fill in irrelevant or unnecessarily the URLs that are not relevant to the post. So only if you have important, correct information in the URL field, only then you should add it. So I just tried to show an example there. It's okay to skip it if you don't have an appropriate URL to add it to the field. So this is how the schema is going to look like. And I'm going to show you something interesting that I have not done in any of the videos. So what I'm going to do is go to the preview results section, and I'm going to show you a preview of how this page would appear in the rich results if it was actually part of our live website. So I'm going to click this button right here, and I'm going to see the preview result, type 1 and type 2. So this is how the result would look like if I qualified for rich results. So this is a page, or this is how the title will look like. This is the materials that would show up, and your images would also show up. This is similar to what I showed you in the mobile phone video that I did earlier. And you can also change the user agent here, but since the how-to schema is only present on smartphones, you will not see other options. So we can also see the type 2 result, and once it loads, I'll show you how it looks like. And this is how it will look like. This was the result that we seen, or what we had seen in the Google guidelines. and the how to will come up as a drop down. So depending on Google's understanding and Google's data about what the user expects, Google might decide to show this or the first result type. So this is the advantage that you will see in the rich results with having the how-to schema added to your pages and posts. If you have any questions about how we implemented this or any questions about Schema Pro or in general, leave them in the comments, because this is where the video is going to end. And I hope you liked the video. If you did like the video, you enjoyed the content, you enjoyed or had fun with my explanation of how to add the schema, make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video. It encourages me and the entire team to work hard and create this amazing content for you guys. And while you're at it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that we can tell you about new videos that we upload to our channel, and you can watch them and improve your knowledge of WordPress. We have a lot of content planned out, so don't miss out on that opportunity. And if you're not a Schema Pro user and you enjoyed this content and you think Schema Pro is helpful for you, then head over to wpschema.com and download the plugin, purchase it for your needs, and also check out some other amazing products that we make. We are Brainstorm Force. We make the Schema Pro plugin. Obviously, we make Convert Pro. We make ultimate add-ons for Beaver Builder and some other page builders, Gutenberg, Elementor, and we also make the Astra theme, which is one of the most popular themes out there for WordPress. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, my name is Yuvraj. You're watching Brainstorm Force's YouTube channel, and I know that I'm going to definitely see you in the next video. Till then, take care.